I wanted to make a video tonight because I haven't done one in a while, for one thing, and YouTube basically sucks now. Uh, basically, any ordinary human being is being pushed out of YouTube, so it's becoming one huge commercial shit enterprise, as expected, as many of us expected. But just trying to keep in touch with some of my people that are still subscribed to me, and you know, it's not about gaining new viewership or anything else. It just basically it's just a rant. It's just venting, um, and I do that in other venues as well. Only not on the internet anymore because the internet itself is becoming and I'm warning you about the profanity right here, is becoming one huge shit sandwich as well. So if you think that the internet is going to provide you with some truthful answers to all questions, you're sadly mistaken, because the internet is moving very much in the corporate direction. It's all for profit, basically, now. And those, those little channels who are still out there on the internet will get very little coverage, and it's all going to turn into one big, gigantic internet cable company, basically. And so we'll have to find other avenues to communicate, obviously, as things evolve, and they are not going to be evolving in terms of the internet. It's difficult to pinpoint all of this because it's all in transition at this point. But rest assured, the entire internet will become corporate dominated and controlled and so on. And it's not entirely so at this point, but it will become so. Just like commercial television today. And if you still watch commercial television, you probably shouldn't be watching my video because it's useless. If you like commercial television, then I would advise you to completely tune out anything I have to say, because it's you're obviously not at the stage yet to realize what's going on. And I'm not an intellectual by any means. I'm also against people who are anti-intellectual, I might add. But the commercial media is dumbing all of us down, all of us, globally, I might add. And so whatever independent channels still exist, that's fine with me, and I'm gonna try to support that as long as I can. But in terms of technology, technology is not geared towards independence automatically. It's a double-edged sword, so to speak. And so, okay, well, kind of boring video, isn't it? Let me get to the meat of this video. Now, Obamacare. I do have something to say about it, and that's not good. I'm basically, I consider myself to be a very progressive person, which is precisely why I will not support Obamacare. I never supported it to start with, because it is a huge sellout to private insurance companies which operate on profit. This is their entire motivation. And so, for the Democratic leadership or some of these people on this, what's it called, the Daily Kos side, to proclaim that this is a huge victory that the Supreme Court just handed to the Democrats or to Obama. This is just absolute crap, okay? Basically, Obama is a corporate tool. He was from the very beginning. This became very evident when his entire economic team was composed of the banking giants in that industry, the leaders of that industry, which crashed our economy to start with. So that ought to tell you something, you know. So for anybody to call Obama a socialist, I mean, it's just laughable. It's completely laughable. And so we're being fed all this bullshit through the mainstream media that Obama is a socialist, okay, for one thing. Well, he isn't. He's very much a corporatist. And, then the Democratic Party, tries to attack the Republican Party by saying, oh, well, Romney is even worse than that. And, well, let me just tell you, in terms of Obamacare, this essentially is the Romney plan. And all it does is funnel more money to private insurance companies for a profit motive. That's all it is. And so for Democrats to celebrate this as some sort of a victory is completely idiotic. Because all it does is this mandate that was upheld is basically funneling money to a private corporate entity insurance company complex that is going to milk you for all you're worth. And they're going to force you basically now to buy a defective product. Okay? Now, people point out to me, well, look, it's an incremental process. We make progress, and this is all the road to single payer, universal healthcare, and all this bullshit. Okay, this is a Trojan horse. That's nothing else. What this plan actually does is cement corporate power even further than anything that existed before. Not only did you have to put up with private insurers, which deny you any kind of care, but now you're mandated to do it by law, okay, on top of it. And yes, it's pointed out that the insurance companies are now cannot deny coverage to people with pre-existing conditions. This is true. They can't. But there is absolutely nothing in this entire plan which prevents those insurance companies from raising your premiums or from raising your copays. Nothing. Zilch. There's nothing in that plan to curtail those practices. Period. And I want to tell you in my next video a little personal story. And regarding healthcare coverage, which incidentally I lost when I became unemployed. This is unthinkable in any Western European nation. It's just unthinkable. When I told my friends about this in Europe, they simply couldn't believe it. What do you mean you lost your coverage? I thought you guys had COBRA. I said, well, yeah, who can afford COBRA? Do you think on an unemployment check you can $400 every 2 weeks you can afford to pay an insurance premium of $400 and still pay your rent? I mean, please. This is all lingo that's being put out there in order to, divide the American public. Okay? That's all it is. And Obamacare is not a good plan, period. It's not. And I mean, I'm not going to vote. I cannot bring myself to vote for this guy. How, in principle, can I vote for a person who's authorizing drone strikes, okay? Who even furthers the Bush doctrine, okay? And then people are telling me, well, you have to vote for the lesser evil again. No, I don't think so. I think I'm done with that. And regardless of how futile it may be, or my stance may be, because evidently, the Tea Party people have caved in big time. Big time. Big time. And so that'll tell you how far that'll go. It's just morally indefensible to me, and I just, as long as democracy is already finished in America, as well as the entire republic, it makes no sense to to vote for a presidential candidate, who's just going to be the next corporate stooge. Doesn't make any sense to me at all. If anything, the pressure has to come from outside Congress, or perhaps a combination of reforming Congress from within. Now, you have to give credit to these Tea Party folks, because they actually managed to do that. They put pressure on members of Congress to move the country even further to the right, and they were successful in doing that. The same thing needs to happen from the left, but the left is non-existent. They're totally divided amongst themselves, and I include myself in this, because we're arguing about silly identity politics, and we're too divided. Okay, we're not gonna win this stuff unless this kind of stuff is confronted, and and I'm afraid it's past that point. So I agree with Tenenbaum's in a sense that, we should be outraged about this. But unfortunately, I don't know how to put this. Probably 60 or 70% of the American public is too uninformed to even make a decision. So how do you solve that? Do you want to impose intelligence tests for people? I don't think so. I don't think so. That's going back to Jim Crow. What we should be pushing for is, is education, and that's what we're not pushing for. We're pushing for private education. We're pushing for the richest members of society to have their private enclaves, their private elites, to have the most educated people around. And some of us who actually received an education, a broad-minded education, public education, when it was still functioning, we had the advantage to really partake in all of this, which was a unique period in history in this country, and that is being completely demolished at this point. So private schools, religious schools, and schools for those who can afford it, are not going to be the answer to this ongoing problem. We live in a poisonous media environment all the way around. It is rah, 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 American patriotism and all this bullshit. And it's It's not going to go anywhere, you know. Our economy, our actual economy, other than what's being trumped up by Wall Street, is in a steep decline. Those jobs that are being outsourced overseas are not coming back. Ever. So this is something to think about, and going totally local is not gonna solve all problems either, because there are bigger entities to be dealt with, you know, such as your rivers being polluted, your your utility companies, you know, those are not local. They're not locally owned. We live in a national grid. I mean, look at the East Coast. Hit by the storm today. Look at yesterday. You know, millions of people without power. This isn't some local. This problem cannot be localized overnight. You know, we depend on a national grid. You know, in terms of power structure, electric power structure, energy structure. This cannot be solved on the local level alone. There needs to be a gradual transition, perhaps, to more local power, but it can't be solved overnight, you know. Imagine if the grid goes down for, let's say, not a week, but 2 months. This would completely collapse our economy within a year. So we're facing some really serious problems, and human problems, you know. And none of this is going to be easy to solve. So, I mean, my overall outlook is that whatever we're doing is somewhat too late. We should have started doing this earlier. And we're going to be facing some hard times. Some really hard times. And there's no way around it. Okay, well, I don't want to end up on a totally pessimistic note, but you know, these you know, these people who say, oh, well, everything is going to work out just fine. I have to say to you, no, perhaps not. Perhaps not everything is going to work out fine. This is an unrealistic type of thinking. You need to look reality in the face. And the reality that we're facing is not a pretty reality. It is pretty damn scary, if you ask me. And not because, you know, I'm facing some home invasion, although it may come to that, you know, at some point, once everybody gets desperate enough. That's a distinct possibility. We're not there yet, but we can't have, if we can't even cooperate on a local level and on a national level, how do you think all this stuff is going to work on an international level? You know? Good night.